In this video, I'm going to be showing you the 5 psychological strategies that you should do before decision making. And be sure you stick around to the end because I know the last one is really going to be the best one to use for any type of big decision that you're about to make. By the way, if we haven't met yet, my name is Emmanuel. I am kind of the chief talking head guy over here at Square One Group. Really, our mission is really to help solopreneurs grow and scale their business using systems. Now, I want to preface this video by saying the obvious. There is never going to be a day in your life that will pass where you will not have to make a decision. It is always going to be there, especially if you're a business owner. What you should eat for breakfast, what clothes you should wear, really what tasks that you should be focusing on a daily basis. I tell you, the decisions, they're everywhere and they're gonna drain your battery super quick if you don't have a framework for dealing with it. Now, I wanna tell you that if you try to make a decision when your energy's drained or you're exhausted or you're not feeling 100%, typically those types of decisions will lead to bad days. Now, those bad decisions, they're inevitable. But having said that, there will be times where some of these bad decisions can cost you massively. It can cost you really your business. And that's definitely not something that we want. So let's break down these 5 real quick. Starting with number 1, which is called cognitive restructuring. So sometimes our decisions are affected by our past experiences. And sometimes some of those past experiences or those thoughts aren't really helpful because they can either be really, really negative or really, really overly optimistic. And I don't blame you for that. It happens with all of us. These are what we call cognitive biases. And it really does most of the work to decrease our thinking time. But the reality is, by decreasing our thinking time, it could potentially cost us a really bad decision. So the goal here is to change the way that we decide. And we do that by restructuring or rethinking the way that we think. So cognitive restructuring is where you'll essentially question and challenge your own thoughts to narrow down possible options. Like, for example, let's say you read something and you automatically think it's true. Cognitive restructuring essentially states that you're gonna question the validity of what you just read. Let me give you a quick example to better articulate this point. So I have a client, his name is John, and he's running a photography business. So he's planning to add a new service to his business, specifically drone photography. And so this is essentially where his bias kicks in. His bias is essentially telling him, just think about all of the possible positive reviews and all the gigs that I'm gonna get. I know this is gonna be a hit. I know this is gonna work, so I'm all in. Now, using cognitive restructuring, this is where we essentially kind of confront that thought, that theory. And we ask him to admit, number 1, to himself first, that this is a bias. And then from there, we would decompose that thought and try to start weighing out all the positive, negative outcomes for offering this drone service, in addition to all of the positive things that he's thinking about. So setting his excitement aside, this is where we start taking a look at the facts without his emotion. We really start asking the question of how are the quality of the photos gonna look like using this drone? What is the pricing and the packaging for the bundles that you're gonna be offering for the service? Have you really thought carefully about how to solve the potential negative feedback if things don't go your way, if this doesn't work? You kind of see how cognitive restructuring does it? It makes sure that you're critically thinking that all of your checks and balances are reviewed, and you start predicting what would potentially happen whether or not, John wanted to push forward with adding this drone service to his business. All right, moving on to number 2. This is one of my favorites. It's the 5 whys technique. Now, when I'm trying to get to the bottom of a problem, oftentimes the questions that I ask myself, they're real different. But the reality is, whenever I can catch myself asking all of these vague questions, instead, what the 5 whys kind of states, or the framework states, is that we have to ask ourselves why 5 times so that we can get a little bit deeper at the root cause of the problem. Think of it like peeling apart an onion. The more information that you peel apart, the deeper that you get, and the further away that you get from surface level thinking. So let me run another quick story by you from another client of mine, Andrew. He runs a car body shop. Now, in working with Andrew, the problem that he was currently facing was that he was not getting repeat customers. Fewer and fewer customers were coming back to him. Now, the reason for this could just be at the tip of the iceberg, kind of very high level thinking, because there could be a lot of reasons why, people aren't coming back. But to really get into the real answer of why he was suffering from this problem, we just needed to ask him why a few more times. So again, starting with a kind of top level of the question why, we're asking, why are fewer customers coming back? Well, maybe it's because they're unhappy with the service time. Well, why weren't they happy with the service time? Well, it's probably because the cars took longer to get fixed. Well, why did the repairs take longer? Well, it's maybe because the shop didn't have all of the parts. So, he had to go out and buy the parts, and that usually takes, 3 or 4 days to sometimes even a few weeks for them to get delivered. So why doesn't the shop have the parts in stock? Well, maybe it's because of the current system that they have to keep track of the inventory. Why doesn't the system keep track of the inventory properly? Probably because the system is outdated and it's not properly maintained. So all of the inventory numbers are never accurate. Now, right when we get to the last why, it's clear to see what the main root cause of the problem is. And we now know exactly what we need to solve for. So this really eliminates the not so deep thinking that he initially started with. Now, imagine, let's say he stopped at the first why, where he realized customers aren't coming back because they're not happy. And he came to the conclusion, well, it's just because, the cars took too long to fix. Well, what would he do then? He would just start cracking the whip on his employees and tell them to work faster. Well, here's the big problem with that. Number one, the employees aren't really the root cause of the problem. And number two, if you crack the whip on the employees and they're not the root cause of the problem, it's just gonna kill morale within the business. And number three is that this only solved a temporary solution. This was just a band-aid, because the big problem here was his inventory system. We needed to solve that in order to work more efficiently to solve the repeat customer problem. Now, having said all this, if you found that you've kind of hit this weird plateau, or you're kind of struggling within the business to really grow in revenue or really scale, well, hey, I invite you to book a quick 10-minute brainstorm session. I'm going to leave the link right under this video. Just happy to jam with you and strategize with you. It's not a sales call. Just wanted to see if we can maybe come up with a plan and see if we can help you out. All right, on to hack number 3. It's called the 10-10-10 rule. And I got this from a really great business writer. Her name is Susie Welch. It's a simple framework, and the 10-10-10 means what will this decision look like 10 minutes from now, 10 months from now, and then 10 years from now? So really ask yourself the question, what would this look like 10 minutes from now? Would I still be stressed, or would I just be eh? Or maybe thinking a little further, like what would this look like 10 months from now? Is this going to solve the main problem? Or even 10 years from now, is this something that will actually be a scalable solution for the big picture? But I know what you might be thinking. You're probably thinking that, oh man, if I overthink things, well, that's thinking way too far ahead, and I just have a simple decision to make now. Well, isn't that just going to lead to analysis paralysis? Yes, it does sound like that. But if you're worried about wasting time, or really just, getting stressed out and feeling too over anxious about a specific decision, because I've been there, just using this simple framework just mitigates a lot of the stress and, a lot of the unpredictable times that you're maybe thinking about. Listen, if you use the 10-10-10 framework, you're less likely to make a choice just because it feels good right in that exact moment that you're gonna make that choice. Listen, this doesn't mean that you're overthinking. See it like, you're just being thoughtful and really strategic about possible pitfalls that you can encounter based off of this very specific decision. All right, moving on to psych hack number 4, the cost benefit analysis. Now, while some strategies that I've mentioned are really things to consider for the future, and maybe some of them are really thought about to dive a little bit deeper into a problem, the cost benefit analysis is really here so that you can compare pros and cons to a specific decision. So let me give you a quick example. The client we're working with, his name's Harry. He runs a house cleaning business. Harry is thinking about going green and offering a package that uses eco-friendly products. It's environmentally favorable, so he's expecting that there's just gonna be this big pull from it. Like, he's gonna put the word out there, and people are just gonna start working with him just because it's kind of the right thing to do. Like, I'm sure maybe somewhere in your mind you're thinking, oh my gosh, it's kind of a good idea to be eco-friendly. This is a no-brainer. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is a bias, and I don't want you to have these biases, so we're gonna use the cost-benefit analysis to really get rid of this impulse decision and try to take it and run with it. Let's look at the benefits first, the pros first. Now, having an eco-friendly kind of package, it really helps reduce pollution. You'll probably be likely able to attract a lot of customers because they want to contribute to, a healthy environment. Now, let's flip it to the other side of the coin. What are the downsides? Well, eco-friendly products cost more than some regular products. You also probably have to train his staff on how to use these products more effectively, and that could cost potentially time and money. The business is also going to need to hash out a massive amount in terms of a marketing budget to start marketing this whole new eco-friendly direction and pivot and package. All right, now that we were able to throw Harry's biases out of the window and he can see that there's a lot more things to put into this past the just initial thought of, oh my gosh, I'm gonna start offering eco-friendly cleaning supplies. This puts his decision into a bigger perspective of, is it really worth it to present this new offer? By the way, if this is resonating with you and you're really digging the content, really appreciate it if you can click that like button, subscribe button, bell icon, all that fun stuff. Thank you so much in advance. Now, I mentioned earlier that the last decision maker technique, framework, trick is the best one. Number 5, and let's get to it right now. This is a good one. You ready for it? It's sleep. Never underestimate the power of sleeping, especially when you're making a really critical decision within your business. This little break can help your brain seep in all of the information that you've kind of acquired throughout the day. And once you wake up, you'll actually have a clearer vision as to what decision that you need to be making. It's as simple as that.